Welcome back to Conspiracy Theories and Chill. On this episode, we're going to look into a very fascinating conspiracy theory that originates from a tiny little village with the odd name of Ong's Hat, located in New Jersey, where some say that a duo of rogue scientists who were living off-grid in a small commune created a portal to another dimension that still exists there hidden today. Remember to like and share, but most important, subscribe to follow our channel and keep up on our future videos. Ong's Hat, New Jersey is a popular tourist attraction to this day, and the reason for that is that many people believe that a portal to another dimension exists there. Now, there isn't really anything to see at Ong's Hat. That whole area of New Jersey became less and less populated with the dying out of local industry, and Ong's Hat has no residents and is mostly just piles of rubble and overgrown abandoned buildings. Matter of fact, before the events that we're going to cover in this video, Ong's Hat's most interesting story was how the little town got its strange name. See, Ong was a common name in that area back in the time of the town's founding, and it's said that a man by that name that lived back then was quite a ladies' man. It's also said that he was very fancy as well and owned a beautiful silk hat. And one night he was out at a dance doing his thing and working the ladies, and a jealous lady is said to have snatched that beautiful silk hat right off his head in a fit of rage and stomped on it and then flung it as high as she could up into a tree. Now Ong was furious, of course, and devastated about the loss of his beautiful hat, but it was gone now, and it belonged to the tree, and it stayed there, and it is said to have become a landmark, and that's how this town has earned its strange name. Cute little story, right? But other than that, it would have just become another forgotten ghost town. But based on interest created by a book entitled Ong's Hat, The Beginning, in which the author, Joseph Matheny, presents a history of events that according to his book took place in this area of New Jersey. So Ong's Hat is still an area of great interest among conspiracy theorists. Now, what Matheny presents in his book is disputed by many and is widely considered to be a hoax. But the purpose of this discussion isn't really to prove it either way, just to present the story, and then we can all come to our own conclusions. Now, the story of Ong's Hat really begins with the Newark-founded Moorish Science Temple. Now, the members of this small sect traveled the world learning different philosophies and spiritual practices and such from all different sorts of masters and teachers that they seeked out all across the earth. Well, one of these travelers and members, named Wally Fard, bought up 200 acres in 1978 in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. There, he and a small group consisting of runaway boys and a pair of lesbian anarchists formed a new exclusive sect of their own, which they called the Moorish Science Ashram. Soon after, Fard began publishing a series of newsletters proclaiming his beliefs and distributing them, and soon many others began flocking to his land to join his commune. Now, among these were two scientists who were looked down on and ostracized by the mainstream for their radical ideas, Frank and Althea Dobbs. These twins from Texas, who were raised in a UFO worshiping cult founded by their father and were already used to living life on the fringe, settled into this commune and set up a laboratory for their research. Now, it is said that it didn't take long for them to start making discoveries that blew the minds of the people of the commune. But their research hadn't just begun. It had started at Princeton, where they had developed a series of equations that had led them to a discovery that they referred to as cognitive chaos. And when they presented their thesis, the university dismissed them, and their research continued at the commune at Ong's Hat. Now, in the commune, they were free to explore their ideas. And their theories were based around the idea that humans could tap into the unused portions of their brains and attain superhuman abilities like self-healing and even stopping the aging process. Now, based on what they had seen coming out of these twins' laboratory, the ashrams adopted their research into their own philosophy, and together they founded the Institute of Chaos Studies. Badass name, right? But think for a second of the possibilities of this scenario. two scientists pushing the limits of the mind and reality with a devoted group of followers behind them. Within 3 years, it is said that the twins in the Institute of Chaos Studies had invented a device that they called the gate. And with this device, they would hook people up to computers and chart their brainwaves, experimenting with sex, drugs, and mind wave manipulators to learn how to control the chaos that they had found within the mind. The gate would lead to other devices, and one of these, called the egg, was a kind of modified sensory deprivation tank that would fit a human being and equipment. And when it was tested, the egg is said to have disappeared and then moments later rematerialized. The young man on board claimed to have traveled to another dimension, and he claimed that it was exactly like our world, but uninhabited. It is then said that the ashrams and the members of the Institute of Chaos Studies began traveling back and forth to this other dimension and exploring it. Soon after this, there was a chemical spill at nearby Fort Dix, and the ashrams and members of the Institute of Chaos Studies had to flee the area, but they didn't head out in the usual way. They are said to have fled the area interdimensionally, that they used the egg to transport themselves and all of their possessions to an alternate dimension, and that the gate and portal still exists there today, and that they travel back and forth. Now, that's one version of what happened to the ashrams and the ICS members. But another is that this research, and in particular the gate itself, attracted the attention of the government. Now, according to some, this interest led to a violent confrontation in which the group was slaughtered and their research was confiscated. But in all scenarios, they are gone. Did they go to a different dimension? Did their research get confiscated? Did they really make the discoveries that they claim to have made? Is the legend of Ong's hat even real? Now, officially, the entire thing is considered to have been a hoax created by the author Joseph Matheny and his friends. It is an elaborate hoax and has some interesting evidence, but that is also all said to have been fabricated by the author. Now, among the evidence for the events is a book catalog called the Incunabella Catalog, said to have been posted by Matheny himself on the internet. As a matter of fact, Matheny even says he made it all up, including the Incunabella and all of the evidence as a game. But to this day, people still believe in this story and the evidence despite all of that. So why is that? Well, there was a commune in that area in that time. We talked about them. And there was a nuclear leak at Fort Dix and many strange military exercises in that area around that particular time. And that's where it all gets difficult. See, as viewers of this show know, I am a contrarian, and this part is where the Ong's Hat story takes a weird turn for me. For decades, researchers have pored over all this evidence that was, according to the official narrative, made up by a science fiction author and his friends. Now, I didn't take the time to pore through it myself, and as I said, we're just exploring the theory here today. But people have investigated it for decades, and they believe that it is real to this day. Now, does that make it real? No, of course not, but it does make it interesting. The idea that this did happen and was covered up is interesting as well. Imagine that this story is true for a minute, that two scientists and a small commune of believers uncovered some secrets about the human mind, reality itself, and what if they discovered travel to another dimension? What would those in power do if they found out about that? I don't know. Would they storm the compound, wipe them out, and take whatever they had discovered? I think that they would. I also think that they could. But did they? Or did a sci fi author and his scientist friends really create a hoax so elaborate that it has survived for this long? I found compelling evidence from both sides on this one. The believers are painted as crazy, but are they? The believers are always painted as crazy. They always make it look like you have to be insane to believe something like this. Well, there's evidence for things like this. And one of the smartest men that ever lived, Nikola Tesla, had experiments similar to things like this, talked about things similar to this. And this melding of quantum physics and deep religious belief in drugs and sex and all the things that they talk about that they had done, it's not unbelievable. And it's not even unbelievable that those in power would take that technology and that research. I believe if something can be done, it probably is being done. It probably has been done. Or someone's attempting to do it. We live in a madhouse in a world of lies. So who knows really what is true? As I've said, Ong's hat is said to have just been an elaborate hoax. Even the author himself came out and said that he made it all up because he says it started to ruin his life. Conspiracy theorists showing up at his house trying to get him to tell the truth of it all. But if you look into it in the Incunabella catalog itself, it's very detailed, it's very in depth, and it includes a lot of scientific research. And then all of the other things that had to have been put together, like the documents that came out of the ashrams and Fard's publishing of his newsletters. All of this, it's very elaborate. Now, they say it's the earliest version of what they call today an ARG, basically a living novel, a role playing game. Now, it could be, or it could be a massive cover up. Like I said, we didn't take a deep dive into this one. We didn't try to prove whether or not it was real. I thought it was an interesting story. It was a recommended topic by Babels, so we looked into it. It was very interesting. And if there's any interest, I'll look into it deeper. Ong's hat actually turned out to be an old conspiracy, but as I told you, is one that lives to this day. And Ong's Hat is a popular tourist attraction to this day. There is still interest in this story, and it is still out there. So if you'd like more information on this story, I'll include some links in the description on how you can learn more about the legend of Ong's Hat. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Conspiracy Theories and Chill from me on Things and Stuff.